Shout out to Clement Chu, the host with the most. Rogue Warriors on blue, we talked about this, and Zoe's still up and available. Let's see if they pick it up as a first pick. Forge has played it in the past, but JDG on red, and we've already got a couple of jungle bans.
Nidalee always going to be banned away from Haro. I think he's probably the best Nidalee that we've seen. It's been the main champion that he used to take down top esports with. And JD Gaming, surprisingly enough, still not letting the Samira go. I felt like Samira was a champion that they could afford to let go if they had the Senna in their pocket. They decide against that. And it's going to be the takeaway from Forge on the Zoe.
But you've left up the Pantheon. Oh no, Pantheon is feared throughout generations of people for a reason. And now, here we go. They're probably going to Kanavi. It's just such a strong pick at the moment, and there's a lot you're actually giving away. So we'll find out what else JDG want to lock in early. The Kai'Sa's already banned away, and they're going to get the Orianna as a response.
Pretty interesting to see Yagao on Orianna. This is not a normal champion for him. He rarely played it in 2019 and 2020, almost no games. You have to go back to 2018 to find footage of him on this champion. So I feel like JD Gaming might be trying some things out before Chinese New Year actually ends. You know, Rogue Warriors, really, I don't feel like they're the toughest competition for JD. So they can afford to kind of throw darts at the wall and see what sticks.
Isn't it ironic that I was just talking about, oh yeah, Gao, you know, he's medaled on Orianna. It's not really his champion. Then this game he actually picks it up.
Yeah,
it feels like, yeah, me too, honestly, even after saying it. Rogue Warriors, however, are going to get a strong power pick themselves. And this just signals that Haro giving himself a bit of priority mid 2v2 strengthens a lot. This is a mid 2v2 we've seen a lot in the LPL. And that support really cements a strong 3 quick picks for RW.
We are going to see Rogue Warriors poke into the blue side quite frequently with this composition. They have double counter picks in the mid jungle, essentially. And now for JD Gaming, very interesting. We're not going to see an early bot side pick here. Usually in the draft, bot lane is very high priority throughout most of these drafts.
Yeah.
We are going to see the Gnar instead. So the bot lane not yet decided coming in for JD Gaming. Not typically how they draft. And I also want to mention that their top side is incredibly slow. Both Gnar and Orianna are not champions that can push the tempo. So they need something pretty good, pretty aggressive in the bot side to balance the map out.
I guess the balance as well for jungle to solo lanes is that Pantheon too, right? You know, you've already got a slow pace that you wanted to see. You wanted to see JDG play it out a little bit slower.
Yep.
And, you know, you do have that with the Pantheon to kind of facilitate the early game. But further to your point about the bottom lane, there are going to be very limited options. The Thresh is banned from Lumao. I expect maybe what else would you run into this? What else is open? Maybe Gragas, if you wanted to see. What else do you want to see, Clement?
For Rogue Warriors, I think something like Jhin works out. You have the strong poke composition, and Jhin is a great champion to assist with jungle skirmishes because you can stay in your own lane and still help out in the meantime. So I do like taking away the Senna from JD Gaming. Senna is a champion that fits Loken to a T. I think it's a utility-based champion that has long range, can bully lanes, all of that. But I don't think of Loken as hyper carries necessarily. So I do like this takeaway by Rogue Warriors. And I think that basically leaves Jhin or Misfortune open. Those are probably the 2 picks I would look at.
80 carry counter pick. That's what they've decided to go in for. Something, again, we really don't see much, especially in this meta. So Loken wants to put himself in a winning position.
I do like the Misfortune here as well. Has a good matchup against the Jhin. You can push her in. And if Rogue Warriors do go for the Jhin, I feel like they have a pretty strong possibility of having 3 winning lanes.
Oh. Well, that's a Silas top. That is
Okay,
a Silas top into a Gnar.
I like what Rogue Warriors are doing here. Just go for the juggler. Make sure that you have all of your lanes just pushing and being in very strong positions. I don't necessarily like the Xayah. Don't think it works that well against the Set. We have mentioned that it's very easy for Set to force summoners from your early levels.
It's going to be locked in. I know what you're talking about with the Misfortune, especially since you got such a comp that can snowball and run out of control, right? You know, Misfortune on one item would facilitate so many good early dragons. Before we talk about that, I just want to see what JDG lock in, and then we can go through compositions for our audience. The biggest part here is that you have a plethora of 80 carries that can run well into Xayah. Loken's favorite was this Ezreal, and this is the first Ezreal we're seeing in 2021 on the LPL.
This is pretty damn interesting. Ezreal was all the rage during preseason with Divine Sunderer and Sorelia's Grudge, items like that, but throughout the actual competitive part of the LPL, we really haven't seen him. He gets pushed in by Kai'Sa, and his item spikes are pretty slow because he is a Muramana builder as well. So, kind of interesting to see this Ezreal come out. We do have to mention that Loken was 90% win rate on Ezreal in the last season. So this is something that he's super comfortable on, but not really in the meta.
Just something that, you know, has always been one of his best champions. His positioning in team fights has been complimented many times. And on this Ezreal, the ability to do that is there. Clement, walk me through a little bit. Come back to the composition of Rogue Warriors at hand, because they've got Zoe, Silas, now the Xayah, volatile champions alongside with the Olaf that can really do damage and accelerate when they get that first item.
So I will say this, JD Gaming have been known as a team that does try to limit test in game 2s if they win game 1s. And I do read this draft as a little bit of a limit test for them. They're going into this with lanes without a lot of priority. Their mid jungle is losing. Their top lane is very hard to play around with the Gnar against the Sylas. It is much more dynamic on the Sylas's end. And their bottom lane usually just gets pushed in. So honestly, I don't really see where Kanavi can find any action to get going. And this is almost a test for JD Gaming, like how good are your players individually? Can they actually outplay the situation that's in front of them?
Okay, so priority lanes I'm going to take from Rogue Warriors at the very least, giving priority and really taking this game apart piece by piece through the laning phase. Can Kanavi put out the fires? Can Kanavi counter jungle and rather deny the counter jungle and counter gank against Haro? That feels like part of the way we should be expecting to see this game. As we enter Summoner's Rift, you can't see the Colonel, but he fires all the way towards JDG. And I'm just looking across the board. I see no runes that we should be aware of. Apart from Ziv running Sylas into the top lane, something you don't normally see. It is the phase rush here on the Sylas, so going to have great trading power throughout the lane, and his ability to reposition, of course, enabled through that as well.
Yeah, and the Sylas early game actually has a lot of kill threat over the Gnar. You do have 3 gap closers with the W, 2 E's. And early game, you can stop Gnar mid-air. That's one of the big trading patterns that can happen. So you can flash stop Gnar mid-hop and just kill him that way. You have a very, very high kill threshold against him as well. So that's something we have to pay close attention to. I'm just pretty unsatisfied with JD Gaming's draft. If you look at this game from the angle of Pantheon, and you just look at these 3 lanes, you have to ask yourself, where the hell am I supposed to gank here?
Yeah. I think it's going to be a hard task for Kanavi, and you know, a limit testing draft, to be sure. Something that you already talked about is what they do when they pivot in game 2, just to try and, you know, get an advantage. And in preparation for this series, in preparation for seeing Ezreal, I'm just noticing through solo queue, you know, we're seeing a lot of Ezreals at the moment playing with Essence Reaver into Duskblade. Like, the Ezreal in solo queue at the moment, Clement, is an Ezreal that doesn't have a mythic item as an option. So we'll see if it ends up being that Divine Sunderer or the Kraken Slayer, which has also been seen randomly. But I'm seeing a lot of Essence Reaver into Duskblade. So I'm curious as to what point we pivot and what kind of position we see this Ezreal in.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting choice for the Essence Reaver. Obviously, as the Ezreal, you don't really make use of the crit whatsoever. But yeah, I could definitely see getting the, you know, extra cooldown and infinite mana on your kit being quite useful here. And probably with the Essence Reaver, it does allow you... I'm assuming that it does allow you to skip the mana builds.
Yeah, because, I mean, in a lot of the builds, just to our audience, of course, looking through, because we haven't seen Ezreal in a while, I want to see if anything changed. You still get Lucidity boots, but just across the board, people like Arrow, you know, Keith, Deathly, Cody-san, even Crown Shot, you know, running the same builds. So I'm really excited to what we can see for the Ezreal. Again, we'll keep you updated and we'll talk about it as we go through. It is still the Conqueror we're seeing on our screens. Not too much of that lethal tempo that we saw when Ezreal came through as that really cool spell auto attack weaving in 2020. And already you can see he's pulling back into the lane, getting pushed up by Michi and Chocho with a bit of priority. And Across the board, a couple of CS advantages, bottom lane, but also top lane for Zoom. Playing the lane really well, knowing that Kanavi's nearby.
He's up already 2 waves in his own lane, and Ziv honestly hasn't been able to find an opportunity to go in. This is something that we've noticed with the new Gnar changes to his buffs on 11.1. When he gets that Mega Gnar, he can actually outtrade a lot of matchups that he wasn't able to do previously before. So
Sure.
I like what Zoom is doing here. He's holding on to his Mega Gnar bar almost the entire way and just making sure that Ziv can't walk up to him.
Feels like really good trading. Clement, I should also just clarify quickly. Of course, we are on 11.2, and live at the moment is moving into 11.3. So that is just the small bit of knowledge that might not actually be relevant, but it's good to keep people updated with what we could potentially see in the future anyway. Good dodge there from Ziv, but Zoom is still trading really nicely. And 20 CS feels great as I think Ziv missed the cannon minion. Oh,
Yeah,
he missed that one.
force.
Oh, he got that one. Okay, he got 2 of them. 2 out of 5 ain't bad. We know
Having
it
to
is.
force to use a lot of mana just to wave clear here. And also, we were talking about the mid lane where most of the times Orianna is the one that's getting pushed in. Zoe does have priority here. We're seeing a pretty sizable CS lead come out from Yagao as well. This is an even wave state, and he's already up by 8 CS. So, JD Gaming, you know, sometimes they limit test, and what they find is, hey, we're just better players.
No, who knew? Maybe we did. Ziv again, just walking up, and this is kind of the problem. The phase rush getting procced to run away from the trade, but it doesn't matter. Zoom getting great trades, Kanavi focusing in the top side. I don't think Ziv's going to be allowed to back. And as Kanavi comes over the wall, Flash is available. Does he want to burn it into the brush? Fog of War utilized. Ziv's still there, doesn't care about it for now. Puts out the shield, puts it down. Ziv takes another Q, and the Comet Spear almost takes him down. Ziv will have to burn the teleport, but Kanavi being a real cyber bully.
Yeah, and I don't think this trade is worth it for Rogue Warriors because we are seeing JD Gaming basically deny 2 waves from the top side.
Yeah.
That's a lot of minions lost there. Already a 30 CS lead on Zoom, 5 minutes into the game.
That's huge. Zoom is one of the best top laners at laning. You know, he's one of the best because of how he dominates his opponent. And the lower tier mid laners, you were already talking before we went into this matchup, Clement, that Ziv was struggling with some of the better top laners. We can see right now he's put into a very unfavorable position with now Kanavi prioritizing that lane.
I feel like Ziv is a player that doesn't really ask for resources on his jungle. This is how he's played on AHQ and all throughout the PCS. So when you're up against a strong top laner to start with, and that top laner has massive amounts of jungle support, there's not much you can actually do. Like, it doesn't even matter how good Ziv is individually as a player. He's just not going to be able to get out of that situation. So I think Rogue Warriors really needs to work on their top jungle synergy. They cannot let one player be completely irrelevant on the map without trading anything back for it.
That's right, and especially in a Sylas, which, you know, I use this word a lot these days, can be quite volatile. We know that he has great scaling capabilities, but, you know, running into this Gnar, especially when you're going to go for the AP build, as you can see, the Fiendish Codex picked up. So there's going to be a slow rise to damage for this top laner of RW. Across the map, everything pretty much even, and Kanavi spent his time, instead of clearing some of the camps, into putting the priority top side. He's not too far behind in camps anyway, as even Lumao's roamed. Who would expect Lumao here? Chocho just going to find a friend. Trouble Bubble doesn't connect either, and Forge missing that one.
This is a pretty good roam from Rogue Warriors. They almost found Lumao, and this is exactly what they should be doing. Mid-jungle priority. Make it the maximum use to it. They get all that vision onto the topside jungle. This also allows Sylas to pick up a lot of farm. As you can see, Zoom backing quite far away from the minion wave.
Yeah.
So I like this play coming in from them. Unfortunately, Haro actually kind of missed a couple undertows on the Raptor, so wasn't able to take that one away.
I'm not sure how much, or partially how much he took. At the very least, we'll see as we pan the camera down. Left a couple of Raptors, and Lumao just walking around once again, absorbing and sharing mid lane EXP. And even there to help Yagao make sure he doesn't lose any either. So nicely done from brother Lumao, while Yagao actually going to be in with a small CS lead over Forge as well. This is a great early game for JDG, Clement. 400 gold in the lead.
None of this lane priority really affecting them too much. I thought the top lane would be pretty volatile for them. But instead, Kanavi paying a lot of attention to that lane is able to swing it massively in Zoom's favor. And I just feel like this is something that's pretty common when we see in Rogue Warriors game. They typically leave Ziv on his lonesome in that island in the top side. They get a Drake for it, but it really isn't enough to compensate. When your top laner is behind in levels and CS to this degree, there's really no coming back in the matchup. He's just going to be a punching bag the entire way through. There's actually no trade that he can win here.
And you have to remember that he's not safe at his turret either, right? Kanavi has ultimate available in that Starfall, can just puncture a hole in him. Ziv going too far forward with him. He's gone to duct as well. He's going to take the Gnar ulti, waiting for Kanavi to go in, but he kites back. Execute at the ready, Q's down. That doesn't connect, but the burn will be enough as Rogue Warriors are roaming up. The flash here with the Zenith Blade. Kanavi respects as Zoom is about to go into the Mega Gnar, but it's gone to duct, doesn't connect either. He hops over, he flashes, and out he goes. Ziv still getting burnt down. Zoom doesn't have a TP, but Kanavi burning his own flash.
Both teams are doing full rotations into the Herald, and I don't think Rogue Warriors can actually finish this one. Luma and Loken are already here, and they're here first.
Well, Kanavi, the burst of Pantheon is going to be huge. And Ziv, how low is he? He's got no mana. He's got no HP here, Clement. And Herald's just going back and forth. Shelly is deciding who she wants to go out with. But Rogue Warriors, it's going to be let to reset, and everyone just backs away.
Both of these teams look like pretty rough suitors. So Shelly is going to go back to her own house.
Back to the drawing board.
Doesn't want to hear any more of it. And yeah, that was a pretty good play, and something that I really enjoy about the Sylas versus Gnar matchup in the top lane is Sylas can actually use the Mega Gnar without transforming. So it's actually quite favorable in those trades when he gets up close.
He has already used it. The hijack is now available though, so can't steal it away from the Gnar as if Scott of Duck misses up there. Meanwhile, we're seeing a fight while Kanavi just goes in onto Chocho, who has no mana. One more Q, and first blood is so easy, like taking candy from a baby.
Yeah, and Rogue Warriors, I don't think they thought that one out. They tried to play a double fake and get JD Gaming to base. They were like, okay, we're not actually taking the Herald. Haha, we're coming back and taking the Herald. And JD Gaming are like, hey, so are we. So they just walk back in. They get the very easy kill off of that rotation. And I just think this is really funny. It's really showing the character of these two teams.
It is. Undertow? No. Smite secures. Ygal spots him out as well as he just lured in. Oh, man. Double showstopper, but one ignite to rule them all. Lumao picks up the kill anyway, and this feels disastrous. Ziv surviving after losing the Herald, that's okay, but dying Clement and giving Zoom more time in lane.
One thing you will never outmatch JD Gaming in is persistency.
True.
Sorry. They love sticking around objectives for far too long. That double fake did nothing against JD.
Oh, man. It's such a big early game for JDG. Haro goes back to where he believes he can get some damage down onto the Dragon. They lead towards Soul Point, but they're 2,000 gold down. With first item coming across the board for JDG so much sooner than RW. And we do have an Essence Reaver first, Clement. As Shockwave actually going to come in onto Forge. Ignite was stolen by this Zoe. Ygal does enough damage, but no mana to follow up. And I want to point out that, you know, the Essence Reaver picked up. Do I have time? Let's be real. Do I have time? Michi's coming in as well. Solar Flare layers down. Kanavi puts up the shield of defense. He's only on 4 stacks, can't get the 5th, and the Iron Spike Whip means no healing from Gore Drinker. Ragnarok from Haro, but the follow-up stops there. A good trade back kill onto the jungle of RW.
Really good find on their part, and I'm just a little surprised by JD Gaming actually venturing there. That part of the river, they got already based, so JD Gaming kind of going into a fight again that they shouldn't have taken. And Rogue Warriors come out ahead with that one. However, you know, the story is still the same about this entire series. It's really about who can stop Zoom, and maybe Forge can do the trick.
Zoom getting ganked here by Forge, but he's about to go Mega. They don't want to go near the Gnar, Clement. He's got Stridebreaker as well, so good gap close. Makes it even harder to gank him. Clement, it's calmed down. Can we now talk about the Essence Reaver? How do you want to do this?
Yeah, I like the idea of the Essence Reaver. It is the problem about Divine Sunder in preseason and why we saw a huge drop-off in Ezreal play throughout the Demacia and NESD tournament was that you really over-index into HP onto on Ezreal. Like it's a great item, but a lot of the times you don't really want to be paying that much cash up front for the for the extra HP and survivability proponents when, look, if you're drafting Ezreal, you have a lot of survivability. You don't need the extra HP. So I think that was the problem with the old build. And this new build with infinite mana, you can see it just spamming right here, and the fact that you don't have to go for a tier to buff up your damage, I think it makes a lot of sense. But I'm wondering how they use the crit on this build. Because
I guess really if you're going into Duskblade, like you have a really strong 2 items, but you're right. Where does crit go from there? Clement, you know, with a computer I can do more investigation because I've seen Ravenous Hydra. I've seen we go into like a Last Whisper item. So the possibilities are endless. You know, we can go Collector.
Sounds really, really nice. I've always loved that item on Ezreal. It's a great finisher. You get the 30% slow. You know, it kind of makes up for the loss of Iceborne Gauntlet in most AD builds.
True.
And it packs a ton of damage, you know? Like, with the old Divine Sunderer, that was actually max HP and physical damage. So, if you had that armor penetration, it helped out a lot as well.
I always like seeing, like, new builds come into LPL. Now, I have to apologize, of course, with LCK being on the same time. I'm not sure if this has been played in the LCK. I'm not sure if this is actually happening in competitive regions. LPL is 7 days a week, ladies and gentlemen, and, you know, sometimes sleep eludes. So, this is a really cool build to see, and I'm just kind of looking across the board as we see turret plating come through. Why Loken has such an early Essence Reaver. He's in a very strong position. Even that damage there. He hasn't lost mana, by the way, for a very long time. So this is another reason. The 40% off of Spellblade makes it so every Arcane, every Mystic shot does a bit more in the mana department as well. Rather, heals a bit more in the mana department. So feeling pretty good here as the Ezreal. Feeling good as JDG as they continue this gold lead. Continue to graph out their dominance in this second game as well. But Clement, we need to see towards these next dragons. We need to look towards the Herald number 2 that will spawn. And if Rogue Warriors can head towards Soul Point and put an objective on the board for themselves.
This is a pretty good comeback opportunity for Rogue Warriors. They have a lot more dynamic catch potential, I would say, over JD Gaming. And currently Yagao is actually pushing out onto the top side, so if they could find an angle to kind of cut off the targets coming in, they have so much CC. They actually have a ton of great single side lockdown potential here. So I want to see them gather together and just try to make a cut off for JD Gaming. If they get that, they're going to be looking at the Dragon Soul like you were mentioning.
Which is why I like that they've grouped ahead of what you were just talking about 30 seconds before. You can see Eden Ziv walking down instead of waiting to burn the TP. Rogue Warriors grouping up, and Clement Chu becomes even more of a genius than we already knew. 2-man base breaker in the meanwhile. Lumao gets tagged down, ready for the Haymaker, and the True Shot Barrage flies through across the top of our screen. Forge at half. A lot of good poke on JDG, and Zoom just doesn't care. This Gnar is humongous. As Forge pokes down.
He's 2 levels up over everyone. He can chase people down with the Stride Breaker. And they just took way too much poke. Kanavi actually sent Forge down to half HP before he was able to land anything on his part. So JD Gaming actually just went out on the poke.
The ward behind Pit, though. Can they get a steal? Forge comes in to burst it down. No. Over to JDG for the first Infernal Dragon of the game. RW not spacing towards that river. They back away, and JDG, with a successful take of the objective, can just transition to the top Herald.
Yeah, unfortunately for Rogue Warriors, they did come into this a little bit late, and they weren't able to catch anyone with the Sleepy Trouble bubble. They weren't able to land any of the crowd control coming in from Chocho. Ooh. So they kind of just let the targets walk away, and once again, they're not contesting here because Ziv is on the bottom side of the map. They're at a numbers disadvantage here. This is the cost you pay for letting your top laner fall too far behind. You have to make it up to him later in the game.
But at the very least, if he decides to come in, Teleport Ward is right there as Lumao gets slowed down. Solarflare doesn't hit anyone, tags him on the side. He flashes away but dies in the end. The steal there, no. Over to Kanavis, he's back against the wall. And RW, as a 5-man group in the pit, now have to keep them away from the Herald as Starfall to fly through into the backline. Kanavi doesn't care about the Herald. He wants to fight. Heals up with the Gore Drinker. Shockwave to follow through, and Loken's over the wall. Misses the Arcane Shift, rather, Mystic Shot. JDG to pick up the fight, and the Herald goes onto Yagao.
Yeah, that's going to be a 2-for-1, and also the mid lane tower going down most likely. JD Gaming coming up ahead with another strong win. That seemed like a decent fight for Rogue Warriors. They had the teleport in, and they had the first kill into that team fight. But it was just a little bit too much as they couldn't touch Loken. and they couldn't find Yagao either. The front line of JD Gaming was just so good of a distraction.
Feels like that was just still a net win. The Herald gets a charge through mid as well. Busts down for the second turret of the game for JDG. And Loken, you can see on your screen, his ability to arcane shift forward. It's why Loken loves this champ, and he's feeling pretty comfortable right now. And Haro, I'm not sure if you want to be here. Facebreaker brings him in. He doesn't have Ragnarok. Haro is dead. And the kill's unfortunately going to go over to Lumao, but Yagao TP's in for it. And, oh, okay. Zoom. Is he going to die? He's going to go to Mega Nar. That one misses from Ziv. And unfortunate opportunity because the rest of RW coming down. Now Lumao on the chase. Michi, you must run. True shot barrage. That hurt quite a lot.
Definitely did, and he had the ult to get away from that one. Another flash too.
Oh, shockwave. Oh, no. Well, that was kind of anti-synergy from Lumao, but Zoom still gets the kill.
Doesn't really matter. JD Gaming are just running rampant across the map. They get one kill on the top side, transition all of their attention towards bot, and just look at how many summoners they actually force away in that one. Michi has to burn his heal there. We saw another flash coming out. We are going to go take a look at the Herald and how JD Gaming were able to come back from this one, because we have to remember at the start of this one, they actually were fighting a 5v4, a lot of damage being thrown onto Michi and Chocho, meaning they can't really stay into the fight. Kanavi goes down in this one, I remember too, but the HP bars are far too low. And just look at Loken and Yagao. They're full HP chasing down all the members of Rogue Warriors.
Oh man, it just... Every single time RW move into the river, every time RW are angling for an objective or to contest something, JDG are there first, they optimize and take away what they want themselves. Gold continues to expand. Zoom picks up yet another kill. He's now got a Sterix Gauge over the Zhonya's Hourglass, first item of Ziv. He has no mythic yet as this top laner, so feeling pretty bad when you're looking across 5 different mythics from JDG and their ability to keep snowballing the lead in this game.
It's always pretty funny to see Dustblade being built on 80 carries just for the lethality.
True.
You do get
He's going to go invisible.
Yeah, it's not like that invisible is actually that useful, or you get that many invisibility procs during a team fight. But, you know, not really better options.
True shot barrage lands again. Lumao starts to engage. Shockwave though. Oh no. That ends all shockwaves. Lumao has set this fight up and Yagao has silenced it. Ragnarok waiting for the facebreaker. Lumao absorbs the tanking. And that's all she wrote. Yagao on Oriana, Agent 006.
Why is he 006?
Because Yagao is 006.
I'm sorry.
Clement.
Oh my god.
I don't know if you're waiting for Kanavi to die, which to be fair, he almost did, or you just haven't watched a James Bond movie. It's not all about 007. There's 006, and he dies in a couple of them, so.
Hey, 007 is who keeps the box office alive, okay? Nobody cares about 006. That's why I was confused. I was like, why are you mentioning 006? What does this have to do with anything?
Watch a James Bond movie. There's a supporting cast, all right? You know? It's not just about Bond. Q, it's about 006, Moneypenny.
Archer.
Call the fight, Clement. What happened?
But in this one, it's just the ball onto Lumao. You get extra range with the ball delivery system. Actually, he drops it down at the feet of the 3-man. Everyone misses out on it. Easy cleanup coming in from JD Gaming. I like that diversion tactic, but Rogue Warriors actually found a sleep here.
They did. Kanavi almost getting caught out, but the True Shot Barrage comes through and tags RW. Infernal Dragon number 2 for JDG if they can pick this one up. It's such a big gold lead. It looks hard for RW as Zenith Blade doesn't connect. Soul Flare either. They just kite it out. That's so many abilities used. Loken Arcane shifting forward and forward with Kanavi. Haro running for his life and JDG have them in a choke. The Grand Starfall hits that said choke as the Trouble Bubble is over the top. Ziv, Haro running for every dear piece of their life. Loken will get yet another kill, and Forge, Ziv have nothing to look forward to in this life.
And I finally get to see an Ezreal go invisible. That was pretty fun to watch. He does get the Dustblade proc here, and it just feels unfair on JD Gaming's side. You know, Ziv is always winning out so hard in the top lane. He's 70 CS up onto Ziv. There's nothing that Ziv can do right here. He's being completely forced out of the game, and they're going for more.
Oh, they're going to go too far. Kanavi getting bursted down, and he's just dead. JDG trying to kite this one back as Loken even has to arcane himself. Ziv in with the abscond abduct. They're onto Loken. He gets popped down, and oh no, we're doing it again. Just like we saw with V5 and EDG. They've pushed too far, and JDG will suffer 3 dead for the consequence.
It's pretty interesting because Rogue Warriors are looking at a chance to get Dragon Soul now in 5 minutes.
At least get to
Soul
Soul
point. They are going
point.
to get that Dragon Soul point.
You're right. You're 5 minutes towards Dragon Soul. The dragon wasn't actually picked up because JDG pushed. And now we're on Soul Point for RW. They're pinging the Baron Clement as well.
They do have 20 seconds onto Zoom, so actually they could do it. There's no teleport on Zoom either in this play. I think they're just going to straight rush. Okay. Well, we are looking at the, the bottom side skirmish right here. Just the mobility on Silas is so damaging against Ezreal and Gnar. They couldn't get away from him. Ziv with a great find on both targets, going with the abduct, finding both, and getting them very, very close to maybe flipping this game back like we saw in game 1.
Let's just update everyone. Baron wasn't taken. They decided it was too risky of a maneuver, and the True Shot Barrage helped scout out whether that was actually being done. So Loken using that ability quite nicely. And even though RW stopped the advance of JDG, let's just remind everyone they're still about 7,000 gold up at 25 minutes in the game. Haro gets that Gromp just in time. And he's become 007 now, Clement, so I hope you're happy. We've also got Loken, who's heading towards Ravenous Hydra. I'm so happy that for once is actually on point with the build. So we're getting our 3 items there where Loken is going to have a lot of lifesteal and a lot of accessible power.
Yeah, you can't really lock this Ezreal down whatsoever, and this is a very, very high ability haste build. For those of you that don't really understand the ability haste calculation, it basically means that, let's say you have 50 ability haste. If all of your damage comes from abilities, this means you're doing 50% extra damage. Because you're able to throw out that many, that extra amount of skill shots in the meantime. That's what ability haste actually transfers to. So it is much more intuitive in terms of your damage output. Now JD Gaming are going in.
Baron, teleport. Lumao starts this engage onto Forge, going golden for buy time. Ziv on the backline, but Zoom's zoning them. Forge is just dead. That's the Zoe down for the counter. Zoom's about to transform into Mega Gnar. He wants to go in, but doesn't have the flash available, waiting for the Starfall that flies through the sky from Kanavi. Chocho for the re-engage. He's dead too, and he knew it as Ezreal goes invisible yet another time. JDG just going to head back to the Baron.
Not sure about that angle from Forge. He teleports, he comes in at a very awkward angle, just dies instantly. And this is just so free for JD Gaming. There's absolutely nothing that Rogue Warriors can do. The most they're looking at is probably just a compensation in the mid tower.
You have to remember what's going to happen now. Yigal's not even going to let him get the mid tower. Ziv has to back away.
Poor Ziv.
And you're hoping for the Infernal Soul that Rogue Warriors can get something in this game. But it's feeling pretty dire here. Another throw has to come from JDG around that timer as they pick up the Baron. They're 9,000 gold ahead at 27 minutes into this game. We have that Ravenous Hydra on Loken's Ezreal. And the item advantage is just insane.
Yeah, I really like Ravenous Hydra as an item. Been playing it a lot on Bruisers. And the AoE actually spreads to every single target you hit. So it kind of has that same effect like Shyvana with Tiamat back in the days, where you can actually double stack on the AoE from different targets, from bunched up targets. So it actually ends up doing a lot more than you would expect.
It's just nice to see on ranged champions now, right? We're so used to seeing it on melee champions that throughout the change, it's an interesting factor, is going to get ulted back as Jojo. He's dead again. That is the second time Lumao has picked him up and slammed him into the dirt in about a minute and a half.
Yeah, I love the way that JD Gaming are playing this one. They have the bot lane pushing, so most instances people would assume that the rest of the team is either on the top side or further away, kind of shadowing Zoom, but they're actually standing in front of Zoom. So what they're saying is that, hey, we're going to chance the possibility of us running into a 5v4 for this pick. And a lot of teams will not expect it.
I don't think even I'd expect it. Control bubble landing here. Starfall once again for the dive onto Haro, waiting for the Ragnarok to come through. They burn it out. Kanavi with the shockwave actually brings in Michi. Rather, Yagao, excuse me, as the poke comes through. Kanavi heals up a little bit though. And JDG, they've pushed enough in for the base. They want to end the series here, Clement. Baron buff helps him get double inhibitor, and now it's onto the Nexus turrets.
This is going to be Nexus defense for Rogue Warriors. The whole column of super minions is coming in, but they have to go in. They have to be the aggressors on this one, or JD Gaming are going to finish.
Battlestar clears most of the wave. Forge has been doing most of the damage as well, but that cannon minion with the Baron buff should be doing the rest of the work as ult's back in. Zoom gets a 2-man, and onto Forge. There's the damage threat down. Ziv's stolen ult onto Loken, but Loken saved by his support, while meanwhile Zoom and Kanavi busy in front of the fountain. Goes invisible once again. Loken appears in front of Vici. Look at that Ezreal damage. Arcane shifts forward, pokes him down. Haro gets pulled in. One more Q necessary, but the game's over. And so is the series with JDG showing us part of them is back and strong.
JD Gaming holding on to their 2-0 traditions. They're not going to let this go to a game 3. And like you were mentioning, they show us some old tricks that they have kept throughout all of these years. Loken finally getting back onto his best champion of 2020 on the new build Ezreal. I'm sorry, this is the first time that we've seen the Ezreal in the LPL. We're gonna have to do a little bit more homework on that one, but it was a really refreshing sight to see Loken back on something comfortable.
Hey, you don't have to apologize, Clement. Let's remember that, you know, in competitive play, like, we haven't really seen this Ezreal, if only a little bit. You know, something again that I'll have to go and look at is JDG. Okay, brothers together, very close. It's something that we haven't seen in the LPL so far, especially with the high priority in the Kai'Sa, Samira, even Jhin. What other 80 carries are we walking through? Xayah, as of recently, have all risen up. That Ezreal is like a new factor in. So the first Ezreal works out well, the first one of the LPL for 2021, and it's on to Loken.